What's up, chat? Welcome back to the stream. It's Monday. We are indulging in just a smidge of mayhem today. Pretty interesting Monday as well, because while we did only have a couple of events to talk about over the course of the weekend, those events do have a lot going on. So I think it's going to be interesting to break them down in an exciting way. So yeah, if you watched my video earlier this weekend, or earlier this morning, probably what's going on. In terms of the metagame, we're looking at a lot of Daemons right now, thanks to the Lord of Change updates. However, what I want to talk about is some other factions that have also seen a lot of X and 1 representation. One of them, of course, being Emperor's Children, if you look at the thumbnail, but the other one being Space Marines, sort of in general Space Marines, rather than explicitly Ultramarines. There's a lot of Ultramarines, but also we see a lot of other sub-factions, Blood Angels coming in, a little bit of Salamanders in there as well. And that's what we're going to be really talking about today, diving into. It's going to be a little bit of a short episode today, not only because we don't have a ton of results to discuss, but also I have a game, a finals game that was literally just scheduled like an hour ago to be at 2 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, so just over an hour from now. We're going to try to hop off so we can go to Twitch. Just put a link to Twitch in my chat here. And we'll be able to watch that after this show ends. So please come hang out with me over there for that one. Now, I do want to give a shout out before we hop too far. Oh, hello. We don't want to look to show my screen, I guess. There it is. It's so small. What is happening? Sorry, chat. Give me a sec. What the fuck? I do want to give a shout out to Tom Kemp from Battle Sector Scon, who I said took second and went down, or took second place to Scintillating Legion, but that's not the case. Actually, he actually won that event, and I just got my notes messed up. I accidentally put this down for 2 events rather than just one, or two undefeated rather than just one. So Tom, who played really weird Hypercrypt Legion with a bunch of cool combos in it, actually won that event. Jordan McGregor, who I said won that one, instead won Gash Hammer, and Shalyn Kelly Irvin took second place with an undefeated record there. But that's a first place I think we want to start with, because this is the craziest representation of Space Marines. I know I've already seen like 10 comments between that video and obviously previous videos that are like, oh, well, if Space Marines are so good, where are they? How come they're not winning? Look at all these fucking Space Marines, chat. They're in the second place bracket. Now, this event was one of the larger events of the weekend. It went down for 60 players. They only ran 5 rounds, which is why we have so many X01s, and we didn't go to single undefeateds. 60 players will generally go to 2 undefeated if we don't have any X01s or we don't have any pair up wins. And in this case, that didn't really happen. We did have a bunch of players knock each other out with ties, et cetera, et cetera. But otherwise, yeah, it was all a bunch of ties down the line. But a lot of those ties were between Space Marine armies. Now, there are some sort of normal stuff over here. We can see, for example, Dylan Cohen rocking Gladius Task Force with Captain Sicarius, OG, Cato Sicarius, Gravis Captain Artificer Armor, Rabute Gillian, the Uriel Ventress. No Marty's Calgar, actually, so that's kind of interesting. We have an Intercessor Squad, Gladiator Reaper, Hammer Strike, Vanguard Veterans, Victrix Honor Guard, Vindicators. It is new Victrix Honor Guard points, but we are still running 2 units of them. One of them for Uriel Ventress, one of them for Captain Sicarius. And then we have the lone characters, the Captain Gravis Armor, who's hard to kill, and the Combi Weapon Lieutenant. That's pretty normal stuff. It is interesting that it's Gladius Task Force and not Blades of Ultramar, because when we're running these like sort of heavy armor builds, the Blades of Ultramar with the -1 to wound does make sense. But we do we don't have Marty's Calgar on the list, so the additional benefit of duplicating doctrines isn't necessarily relevant in Blades of Ultramar. Plus, you get Fight on Death for the Victrix Honor Guard, which is obviously good if you're running 2 units, so I don't know, that's fine. Also for Guilliman, I guess, because you can do it on anything. But I do want to hop down here and talk about some other interesting Space Marines, technically undefeated. Aryan Fanayan over here. Ran Blades of Ultramar. So this is in the actual Ultramarine detachment. Kato Sicarius, so that's Brand's new Sicarius. No longer captain. Sicarius demoted, I guess. Plus Marnius Calgar, Uriel Ventress. We do have Victrix Underguard in this build. The full 3, so Calgar, Kato, and Uriel all get their own units of Victrix Underguard at the new points level. But also, I thought this was kind of interesting. We are rocking Repulsor Executioners. Now, the Executioners can fulfill 2 roles here. They can act as transports for the Victrix. Obviously, it works. They can work into a similar capacity to Repulsor Executioners in Black Templars, where you have a big battleship, essentially a carrier that you can orbit your formation around. You can use squad tactics to get back in the Repulsor Executioner while pushing it up the table with Devastator Doctrine early in order to get shots on people, and keep the Victrix Honor Guard safe until they're in melee. The other thing is that they're also just hyper tanks, because any big high strength stuff you can use tactical foresight or whatever it's called, the stratagem for -1 to be wounded on the Repulsor Executioner. It doesn't go quite as far as it does if you're stacking multiple defensive technologies, right? Like with Vindicators or being 2+ armor, or Redemptor Dreadnoughts being 2+ armor and -1 damage. However, what's the name of the thing here? Oh, excuse me. It is Tactical Foresight. Yeah, it is Tactical Foresight. I just made sure. All right. However, they do have 1,000,000 wounds. So -1 to wound on a relatively tough body that has 1,000,000,000,000 wounds is really good. The weird part is that like toughness 12 doesn't tend to get the benefit of Tactical Foresight that often, but that just means you don't have to use the stratagem quite as much. Plus, they have smoke launchers, which is always good. So, a little bit of Ultramarine action going on, of course. Smoke and -1 to wound for sure. Absolutely. Calgar getting priced out, the nerf GW envisioned? I mean, I guess so. He's just so good, especially in this attachment. I think the real difference was that when they made the change 2 data slates ago to make it so that Calgar and Guilliman don't stack, it made it so you oftentimes take one or the other. You very rarely take both. Just because it's like 500 points of your army for 2 characters, and you don't get the full 500 because one of their abilities won't work. Calgar's ability specifically. However, if you want to talk about some more interesting stuff, Alexander Engelzos has continued to not disappoint because he's playing Firestorm Assault Force. Every time this man shows up on a undefeated list, it's always something weird. So that's pretty cool. The fact that this list emerges from the ashes as soon as Eldar gets burned to the ground is peak cinema. So it's Adrax plus Vulcan, Apothecary Biologus with Forged in Battle. So that's flip a dice to a 6, either a saving throw or a hit roll once per turn. A Lieutenant with Champion of Humanity, which is ignore modifiers. So he goes with Adrax Agatone. So the real benefit there is that you suddenly do now have, like, if you can make it work, it gets a little weird with reactive moves and stuff. But if your opponent engages into you with something like Victrix Honor Guard, right? Or Redemptors, or any of these units that have mass characteristic modifiers, Adrax Agatone just kills them. He just makes them go away. That's the big benefit of playing Firestorm Assault Force over Forge Father Seekers. Forge Father Seekers does not have this enhancement. It has Immolator instead. So it has a different... It's trying to do different things. You get to fall back and shoot in that one, but you don't get rapid embarkation, so it's a trade-off. But the thing here is that Adrax goes from being already probably one of the best melee characters in the faction to being just straight up, I think, the best, and it's not even particularly close inside this combination. So Vulcan has in for rerolls on Flamer and Melta weapons against an enemy that he targets. Apothecary Biologus goes into Eradicator Squad, most likely. Combi Weapon Lieutenant, or excuse me, that's just a regular Lieutenant with a Power Fist, goes with Adrax to allow him to ignore modifiers. Combi Weapon Lieutenant is just for utility. We have Assault Intercessors. Now, here's interesting is, and I started playing this too in Forgefather Seekers, but I think Assault Intercessors are one of the best spots for Vulcan to hop into. He's a little weird because he doesn't have any leadership abilities, so you're never excited to put him into a unit of guys. However, he does need an attachment because otherwise he'll die. He's not easy to kill, and you can play around it a little bit with Rapid Embarkation, so you can do things like leave him on the battlefield and then run him into the open in order to use his ability, give everyone rerolls, and then Rapid Embark him at the end of that turn to hide him. And then your opponent has a tough time killing him. They try to shoot him. They try to kill his transport and charge him. He like Burning Vengeances away or something. But the other thing is that these guys have wound rerolls, right? They're either baked in, reroll once to wound, or when they charge somebody on an objective, they get full wound rerolls. Vulcan, in his Primaris version, his most recent incarnation, has devastating wounds on the spear. So having a devastating wound melee attacker for the late game is great. And then Vulcan also is a super strong late gamer because he's incredibly difficult to kill. Once he's achieved his lost relic, he chooses an objective. Once he arrives in the battlefield, that's a relic. He gets a 4+ feel no pain, OC 10, and leadership 5 when he gets within range of that objective. So you want him to, especially if you're going second, you want to be able to run him to that objective. So you already want him kind of in the scrum. If you can charge somebody on it, he gets a bunch of devastating attacks. That's also super good. So the Assault Intercessors are actually like a match made in heaven for him. You oftentimes see him with company heroes, but the downside is he doesn't really do much damage with company heroes. These guys also get a hand flamer, which is kind of cute, because he's usually shooting at his reroll target. And so he shoots D6 plus 3 flamer shots. You also get another D6 from the Intercessor Sergeant. So you get two D6 plus 3 wound rerolling 1 damage attacks at varying strength and AP values. His is strength 7, AP 1, and the hand flamer goes to strength 4. Is Eldar as much of the bid as people said? Yeah, it's so bad. that faction got fucking dumpstered. It was way too harsh, in my opinion. Basically, they haven't shown up almost anywhere, right? We can look at these big 60-player events and, like, they're just not even there. It's a sad time to be an elf. Look at that. 2-2 is the highest placing Eldar. Yikes, brother. Intercessor squad for the backline. Blade Guard veteran squad to dual attach with Adrax and the Champion of Humanity guy. We have the big Eradicator squad with the for the Forged in Battle dude. So these guys are great. They gain lethal hits from the Apothecary Biologus. You shoot the units firing 8 times. Full rerolls against monsters and characters. Or excuse me, monsters and vehicles. So they shoot 8 times. You probably get 1 or 2 6s in there. You reroll everything. Get 1 or 2 more 6s. It's called 2 to 3 6s. Then you flip a miss into a hit. So you're probably looking at like 3 lethals once you've flipped. Plus, you've probably only missed like 1 attack. So then you roll and re-roll like 4 more wound rolls and hand your opponent 4 or 5 AP4 re-rolling damage melta attacks. And the other crazy thing, the part that really makes this unit incredible, is that it works on Overwatch 2. Because you can use the Fortune Battle once per turn, and the Eradicator squad, for whatever reason, their reroll ability, unlike Fire Dragons, is not shooting phase locked. I think they probably printed that first, realized it was really dumb, and then printed Fire Dragons later, which means Eradicators can fire with full rerolls and a flipped lethal on your opponent's turn. So if you run up a transport or something, the Eradicators just get to full activate into them, almost, which is crazy. They probably hand you 3 AP4 rerolling damage melta saves on average from an Overwatch from these guys. It's horrifying. And then, if you don't kill them, they can run back in their transport and keep going. We have double Infernus squads, which get the OC2 from Vulcan. 2 Invader ATVs for additional multi-meltas that are relatively fast because they can advance. You love to see it. 2 Land Raider Redeemers, so we have 1 to carry around the Apothecary Biologus brick. We have 1 to carry around Adrax Agatone and deliver him. 2 Storm Spirit Hammer Strikes to get ignore cover. But also you get rerolls on the Melta Destroyers too. So one thing you can do is, like, oftentimes, if you don't have a good way to deliver the Apothecary Biologus unit into something, you can simply drop Vulcan off and then Deep Strike 2 Storm Spear Hammer Strikes next to him. And they will basically kill whatever. If you have it Oathed, they're +1 to wound, so they're wounding basically any vehicle in the game on 4s, full hit and wound rerolls. With 3 D6, potentially D6 +2 Melta shots, which is kind of scary, plus all the Hammer Strike shots as well. So this list is cool, chats. It's kind of sweet. We love to see it. New Harlequin detachment looking scary. Yeah, I'm excited to play it. I have a list saved with it. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But I think there's some cool stuff in there for sure. Also, it's just like ability to control primary is big. What's interesting about this list, though, is that we have no transports for the Infernus Marines whatsoever. So I imagine, well, we have one of them could go into the Redeemer to begin with. We might just be like reserving the other one. Honestly, they're good off the side. They're kind of at a rapid ingress threat because if you have terrain along the side at board, then they can just like hop in off the side and then run in and shoot someone. And if you ever leave yourself exposed, they'll just kill an infantry unit when they come off anyway. So good stuff, chat. I'm going to talk a lot about Forge Father Seekers and Salamanders in the next week or so. So definitely get ready for that. Don't see sisters in the list too. Yeah, not a lot of sisters going on either. They took the nerf pretty hard as well. I doubt that sisters are quite as dead as Eldar are, but it definitely sisters and Admech both got hit incredibly hard alongside that. They were like alongside Space Marines, they were like the basically like 3 of the top 5, so them getting hit is not surprising. All right, chat. I think I want to talk about Emperor's Children. Because obviously, Emperor's Children is another big headliner from the weekend. We say a lot of people picking up Court of the Phoenician. And say what you will about Court of the Phoenician. I don't think it's they're very good, but I'm willing to eat crow. A lot of people are making it work, apparently. So we have Michael House over here. He did lose what looks like a hard game. 44-point loss, but his other games were pretty good. 4-1 at this event. And he was running Fulgrim. All these lists are running Fulgrim, by the way. The Emperor's Children list that we have going on over here. Eldari are never nerfed enough. Brutal. So we have a Demon Prince of Slaanesh with Spirit Sliver for the bonus damage. Fulgrim, Lord Exalted with Soul State Made Manifest. I think that's like Battle Shock and an Aura. I think that's a points filler. 15 points, start of the fight phase, an enemy unit engaged at range 6 of Battle Shock, check it -1. So that potentially prevents you from being interrupted on. Which I guess is okay. That's all the enhancements, though. Lord Cacophonous ×2, so we are pushing really hard on the close quarters excruciation, the +1 strength and AP on shooting. Because we're going to get 6 shots out of the Lord Cacophonous plus the 2 Blastmasters plus 12 more shots from the unit. So we're shooting 18, 24 times potentially with these guys, all at +1 strength, +1 AP. Infractors ×3 for the Lord Exultants. Tormentors, Chaos Rhino ×2. We do have a Mauler Fiend, which is kind of, as we talked about last week on stream, this ended up as being kind of the Mauler Fiend detachment. A lot of the effects are very synergistic with Mauler Fiends in specific. Being able to move through walls, getting rerolls for demon units, and the -1 to be wounded is all very good. Noise Marines ×3 is the other stuff, and that's it. So 1 Tormentor squad for utility, Rhinos to carry the Infractors around, and then drop them for the Noise Marines, and then Mauler Fiend, Fulgrim, and a Demon Prince, and that's 100% of the list. That is narrow. We're in there. I do think that the Lord Exultants plus the Noise Marines feels, I mean, it's like, it's shocking to say. That's crazy. That's basically the only units that are, they're like, remotely viable inside the Codex, generally speaking. At least by themselves. And, but we do need to basically fill points for Fulgrim, which means we don't really get any utility or any of the other Demon Prince options as well, like the winged ones. So he is eating a lot of space in this particular list. That's very straightforward. Kind of fun. The Battle Shock is fine because Noise Marines have a rule that does something with the enhancement. I guess that's true. But I think it feels like a lot of times...
Briong 6931 donated $5 through Super Chat. What's better? Almost 3 Mauler friends in a trench coat in this detachment or Fulgrim?
Mauler feeds in a trench coat. It is 50 points more for Mauler feeds, so I don't know. I don't know, chats. 2 Mauler fiends and you get like what's 2 Mauler fiends? 260? You get like a utility unit and an enhancement for that. I don't know. It's tough to. It's like really scary that a Mauler fiend. It doesn't have the same deliverability as Fulgrim, but 1 Mauler fiend has almost the same damage output in melee. And almost better in shooting. He doesn't have 2+ weapon skill, I guess, and sustain, but like you get that other places. But his baseline profile is better than Fulgrim because it's higher strength. Just doesn't have the weapon skill. That's pretty wild when you think about it. But yeah, I guess it is important that the Soul Stain isn't keyword locked at all. So anything takes a Battle Shock check, which means you can like shoot a knight with a Noise Marine, which I assume works, and then give them -1 and then Battle Shock them. The problem is like if you don't want to shoot infantry, yeah, it's just anything. You don't necessarily want to shoot infantry with the Noise Marines because they'll just pull out of engagement from the Lord Exultant, but I guess that makes sense. I like it. And I don't really know where else you spend the points here, honestly. Like this feels really tight. I don't think there's any other. We could Exalted Patron to get +1 movement. Would be the only other thing, I think. If Tears of the Phoenix, their Ignore Modifiers enhancement, worked on all modifiers, not simply weapon skill and hit roll modifiers, I think you would be, and wound roll modifiers, I think you'd be all in on that one too. Oh, the Modifier doesn't fight first? I mean, I guess so. They're both going to get shot to death, though. This is the real danger. Now, there's another Emperor's Children list we can take a peek at while we're here. This one is also Court of the Phoenician. And this one being from Robert Ramers. Now, this one went 3-1-1. By the way, these are natural draws. I just want to point out. This event wasn't using differential scoring, despite the fact that it had like a staggering number of draws. Those are just normal ass draws that we got, which is pretty wild when you think about it. This one was focused much more heavily on the demon stuff. So we had 2 Lord Exultants, Lucius, Fulgrim, double Winged Demon Prince. One of them has Soul Stain, so he has the Battle Shock thing. Plus Spirit Sliver on a Foot Demon Prince. Double Infractors for the Exultants, Tormentors, Rhino, Noise Marines. So we cut the Cacophonists, we cut the 3rd Noise Marine squad, we cut the 3rd Exultant squad, and we got 2 Winged Demon Princes, which does synergize with the demon synergies a little bit better because we can broadcast our like reroll aura much more easily with demons everywhere. Plus having defensive technology on the Winged Demon Princes to keep their wounds characteristic high is pretty good. So we can use the -1 to wound strat in the detachment to keep them alive. And moving through walls with these guys is huge too, because their baseline movement is so fast anyway. Just run 2 Fulgrims. Yeah, if 1 Fulgrim doesn't do enough damage, take a second one. It's fine. That, you know what would be better than 6 340-point las cannons? 12 680-point las cannons. It's so much better. Incredible. Oh, Fulgrim. I don't know, man. It's such an interesting profile. But what is interesting is the number of Emperor's Children players that we have who are trying to make him work as hard as they can. And it definitely seems like they're seeing some success, right? X and 1 at one of the largest events of the weekend is not bad. That is very respectable for sure. All right. So from their chance, I'm interested to see if any of the demons lists that we're seeing currently are not are not scintillating legion. We found one, chat. We fucking found one. Are you ready? So we're moving over to Battle Sector Scan, which was a smaller event. It was interesting that it ran 6 rounds, but only had 26 players. So it's a lot of games played, but not a huge pool of players. However, if we go down here, we can see, so this was actually it was won by Necrons. Tom Kemp ran a really cool Necron list. We saw some good results from things like Dark Angels, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a moment. But the other thing is that Chaos Demons is the other sort of metagame frontrunner right now, and it's basically entirely Scintillating Legion. Most of the higher placing Demon players are playing Scintillating. Now, I'm curious to see if that continues if Infernal Puppeteer either gets FAQ'd or ruled as written in a lot of places, because that was a extremely big point of discussion over the weekend, is that the enhancement for Scintillating Legion is actually might not work like you think it does. And that's not like a weird house rule that someone made up in order to nerf it. It's actually just like rules that's written that now that the detachment's getting a lot of scrutiny, people have realized is that any of these like pseudo indirect fire, shoot through someone else actually requires that you have a target to begin with. It doesn't let you fire without any targets to before you activate the ability, which is a little bit weird. All right. But looking at this list, chat, it's actually Blood Legion, which is way cooler. So that's the Khorne detachment, which is classy as hell. It's a little funny because basically it's like this. The detachment itself is basically this huge like Windmore. It gives you a 6-inch reactive move towards enemies that end movements within 6 inches of you. So, or a D6 inch reactive move, excuse me. So there's a chance that if someone moves up close to you, you can engage them, which means you always have to play around it. The problem is that you can't use this reactive move to escape from the situation. So more often than not, your opponent will simply just move to 6 inches and then charge you. And it doesn't matter. Move to 6.01, for example. The other thing is that it doesn't work on fallback moves. So there is a 2 CP strategy to charge someone that falls back from you, but you can play around that. You can. There's some weird stuff you can do because you can't make the move, the Blood Surge move while you're engaged. Some ways you can play around it is you take a fast unit and you encircle the Khorne unit, then fall back the second unit. The Khorne unit could declare a charge on the second unit in response to them falling back. However, they can't engage the first unit that you just ran around them when you do so. So you screen off their ability to countercharge you. And because they can't reactive move to your movement while they're engaged, if they ever charge you and don't kill you, it gets really awkward. So there's like a million ways to counterplay it. It's actually not that strong of an ability. The other thing too is that if they kill someone, they obsec an objective that they're on, which is kind of good. But a lot of times your opponent, because you're a melee army, you're doing that on your opponent's half, and they're going to be able to contest you. That said, it does have some good buffs for demon units. It has things like plus or an advance in charge, which is huge for Khorne demons. And you also have Slaughter Thirst, which is kind of a big deal. It's a 6-inch aura of Lance for all Khorne units. So your damage output actually is pretty impressive. You have a fight on death for Khorne units. You have a just straight up grenade. From any Khorne infantry or demon, they can just throw a grenade, which is a lot of mortal wounds. And then they move through walls as well. So we're running Scarbrand. We're running a Bloodmaster that's +1 to wound, a little +1 to wound guy for Bloodletters. A Skullmaster with Brazen Maw that gives him +2 to charge. If he's inside a Crusher unit, which he will be, then you're also +1 to charge for the Crusher unit's instrument. So they're actually +3 to charge coming out of reserve. So they can just hit 6-inch charges out of reserve with nothing else required, all by themselves. Slaughter Thirst is the other thing that's from a Rendmaster. We're running 3 Rendmasters in this list, which is based. They have a +1 strength AP and damage modifier when they target an enemy unit with that, and all Khorne melee attacks targeting that unit get all those bonuses. And because it's not a named effect, it's a statistical improvement, you can stack them infinitely. So you could potentially put all 3 Random Masters on a single target if your opponent's running like Victrix, right? Big Victrix Honor Guard unit. Here I come, I'm a Victrix Honor Guard unit. You point all these dudes at it, and then you charge them with Flesh Hounds. The Flesh Hounds can be getting Lance. They go to Strength 8, AP 4, 4 damage. So even if you Armor of Contempt, they're wounding on 2s, because if they're next to the Slaughterthirst guy, the Lance gets through their -1 to wound. So they're hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, and then they put you, even if you AOC, on a 5-up save, because they go from AP 4 down to AP 3. And every failed save is a dead Victrix. So, for example, we're fighting Victrix Honor Guard. We charge them with the Flesh Hounds. We should get like 10 or so hits. Wounding on 2s is like 8. You probably kill 5 or 6 Victrix Honor Guard in one activation. If you point 500 points of Grandmasters at the same target. So clearly it's a very expensive combo, but it allows you to wildly trade up with all these little units. So we have a bunch of little units of Bloodletters, a bunch of little units of Blood Crushers. One of them gets the extra charge guy, and then obviously a bunch of little units of Flesh Hounds. Any of them at any time, if you don't deal with the Red Masters, can immediately kill almost anything in the game. Which gets crazy. You can also get Scarbrand into something and then sweep with him. He goes to like Strength 10, AP 4, 4 damage just with 2 Red Master buffs on him. He could also get the Slaughterthirst aura, and he also grants +1 attack to everything within 6 inches. So he's also affecting Bloodletters and improving their damage output by 50%. So if you combo all this together, it does crazy stuff. Crazy strong damage. And you do have solid delivery inside the Blood Legion detachment between advance and charge, move through walls, additional charge movement with the Skullmaster, and then also like all the reactive stuff that they can do, which you constantly have to be worrying about because you have to worry about all these Bloodletters and Blood Crushers that can like basically spread out across your army. So it's kind of cool, chat. It's a cool list. I definitely don't think it's going to be as strong as Scintillating or Demonic Incursion or the other armies at the top end of Demons, but I think it does go to show you that Demons can find good stuff to do, even if they aren't playing like the super cutting edge meta stuff. There's the faction's so fucking incredibly deep that yeah, I don't know. There's stuff going on, which is sweet. What's the jank with Infernal Puppeteer? So the weird thing with Infernal Puppeteer is that people have since realized that I'll pull up the actual rule. And there is like I'll clarify. I think it's worth like the full rules discussion right now because it's like it's a very relevant ability. So if we take a peek at the rules commentary, I believe if we could look at the eligible target rules, yeah. So there was an errata to the shooting phase rules that says at least one model in a unit, unless at least one model in a unit has an eligible target for ranged weapons, that model's unit cannot be selected to shoot. So on the face, this means that essentially before you select a model to shoot or a unit to shoot, you have to have an enemy in range and line of sight. The reason that they did this was for Abaddon and like other Dark Pact or like selecting to shoot like activation triggers. So Abaddon, the thing you used to do is because basically anything that wasn't engaged and didn't advance was eligible to shoot. You would select the unit to shoot, and then if you had eligible targets, you would select the targets for them. You would just like as a Chaos Space player, you would just go, oh, I'll select Abaddon to shoot. Because I'm selected to shoot, I'll do my selected to shoot triggers, which includes Dark Pact. If he rolls high enough on his Dark Pact, he gains command points. Then he goes to choose targets. We has no eligible targets. We move on, right? Shooting activation ends, and we move on. And they were like, well, that's not intentional. You're not supposed to be able to shoot with no targets. So we need Abaddon to shoot a guy with his gun to generate CP. So they added this in after the fact. However, if we look at Infernal Puppeteer, the awkward part about Infernal Puppeteer is that it changes your ability to oops, excuse me, chat. You're gonna shoot. My cats are fighting right now. I'm going to show the thing. There we go. The thing with Infernal Puppeteer is that it changes it changes your where you can draw line of sight from. However, you use it when you're selected to shoot, which means on the face of it, if you have no targets prior to, so you put on a Lord of Change. The Lord of Change can then see and measure line of sight through the eyeballs of another unit when he's selected. However, if your Lord of Change is behind a wall and can't see or measure range to anyone, the implication is that he's not eligible to be selected to shoot because he has no eligible targets. Here's the problem. If we go to the rulebook, chat, and we look for eligible targets, the only rules are for melee attacks. So eligible target is actually never defined in the rules. So the open question is whether me having an ability that activates when I'm selected to shoot and would then provide me a target to attack counts as me having an eligible target, versus eligible target simply meaning that you have an enemy unit within range, line of sight, and not being affected by any rules that would say you can't be selected as a target, like reload operative or whatever. If you just say range and line of sight, there's all sorts of weird shit that happens where you can suddenly like be eligible to shoot even if your only targets are lone operatives or something. So you have to put in that clause in there, but which is almost certainly the intention of this rule, but that's actually never explicitly stated. So whether or not I have Infernal Puppeteer, it's basically not known whether or not me having Infernal Puppeteer, an ability I could use later on during the shooting phase, retroactively gives me an eligible target for my attacks. And I think it's up in the air. Honestly, you could very easily argue it either way. For my events, just for the sake of safety, we've rolled that you do need to have line of sight and range to something prior to utilizing Infernal Puppeteer. I think some events have adopted that and some events haven't. It depends on the event. Ask your TO. I think it's like, honestly, I think there's very rational arguments to be made either way. The problem is that they added this eligible target nomenclature, which they use in a lot of places in the rules, but never define what it means, which they do a ton of times. I mean, like, they don't really tell you what happens to a destroyed model. Like, you know, one of the most common things that to happen to a model in the entire game is not defined at all. Warhammer 40k has plenty of these like weird gray areas, and we're just like sort of stumbling into one of them, unfortunately. So anyway, that's the whole discussion about Infernal Puppeteer happening right now. It is very relevant because it is probably the top, like, or one of the 4 top meta armies right now. And so it does change pretty dramatically how powerful it is, depending on how it gets ruled. Would the jankiness also apply to firing deck and indirect? Almost certainly. I believe so. Because in firing deck, I don't believe triggers until you are selected. Then you select the weapons to execute firing deck with. Yeah. So if you have indirect fire weapons and a firing deck, you would need a target already in order to be selected to shoot. The same goes for fire prisms, I think. Because they have, like, I think an identical ability. I don't have the wording up in front of me right now, but I think they have an identical effect where it's like when they're selected to shoot, you can select another fire prism to draw line of sight and range from. But you reduce your attack's characteristic. So it's a whole thing. It's unfortunately like it's an interaction that has existed in the rules before, but it hasn't been. I don't think it's been common enough for people to have, like, fucking. When was the last time you saw a fire prism? It hasn't been common enough, and because especially it's because of an addendum that was introduced after a lot of those rules were written. they haven't been retroactively errated to work with it. So I don't know. It's a whole thing. It's very stupid. They should have just the ironic part is that simply declaring what eligible target is defined as would not only clear this up, but would allow you to like simplify a lot of rules. You could say like model with load operative is only an eligible target for enemies within 12 inches, rather than including like as this custom mechanic where you're an eligible target, or you're not eligible to be selected unless the attacking model's within 12, which is like, I don't know, a little bit weird. So not quite as clean. Anyway, chat, that is a whole thing. The designers don't under the errata specifically said as when boxing out. Yeah, I mean, it gives examples, but like the examples within the umbrella of examples it gives, Infernal Puppeteer is included, right? I don't know. Like things that occur, post-selection not being used is a thing. Like the timing and resolution of Infernal Puppeteer is basically identical to Dark Pacting, and essentially the commentary, like developer note specifies that they don't want you to Dark Pact without a line of sight to something. All right. I know a couple people were looking for some Tyranid armies. I don't know if many people are on Tyranids right now. What a shocker. Oh, actually, we want to talk about Dark Angels. I'm kind of on a Dark Angels kick. I actually spent a lot of time this week talking about Dark Angels. And so we can hop in for a moment here and discuss the Sons of the Lion. Let's fix this. There we go. So from Battle Sector Scon, Frederick Grott went 3-0-3. This was differential scoring. To be fair, I know that at least one of these games was a natural draw. Although I do believe one or two of them he did lose. He had lower BPs than his opponent. But differential scoring creates an infinite number of draws. So we will still take a peek. He is running Wrath of the Rock, which is sick. We've got Azrael, Lionel Johnson, plus Samael. Seems good. Double Intercessor Squad for backline. We get a second unit for infantry sweeping, which is nice. We can actually weapons of the Dark Age to give them strength 6 bolters. Which actually could be kind of neat. If you're shooting a T3 infantry squad, +1 or +2 strength on these guys actually goes really hard. So you could deliver an intercessor squad instead of something like more important, right? Instead of having to charge or interact in a more like random way, we could just fire 20 shots from the sideline, right? By just running these dudes in at strength 6 and probably clipping a unit of like 10 cultists or guardsmen or something, which is, I don't know, that's cool. That's cool technology. Plus additional intercessor squads for OBSEC are always good. If you're able to get these guys like up out in front of you early and then OBSEC a midboard objective and leave and force your opponent to come in and try to contest it, you open rapid ingress threats at that point. Wrath of the Rock, I think, gets so much better if it's playing on the defense, because it's reasonably fast, but it's not super fast. But what it wants to do is use Lionel Johnson to play a bunch of like weird fight first games, and in creating situations in which that happens is really beneficial to it. So being able to OBSEC midboard objectives is huge. We've got Jump Back Assault Intercessors, Deathwing Knights ×3, fucking holy shit. Eradicator Squads ×2. Another benefit here is that we can use Relics of the Dark Age on these guys to give them strength 11 meltas. So a lot of times they can be winning T10 vehicles, so like gladiators and things, on 3s with full hit wounded damage rerolls. That goes really fucking hard. And these Eradicators start to hit like absolute Mack trucks. We've got Outriders for Samael to hop into. So he gets 6 3 damage, strength 7 melee attacks with sustained hits 2. Plus the Outriders hit pretty hard too. And that unit's only, like 180 points, 195 points for a unit that fires 6 Twin Linked Bolter shots plus a Twin Linked Storm Bolter plus a Plasma Cannon. So it's shooting 10 Twin Linked gunshots and then D3 blast, like strength 8 AP 3 2 damage. Plus it swings in with 18, basically the equivalent of like closer to 20 because of the sustained hits. 2 damage melee attacks as well. So Samuel is actually like a really good instigator for fighting. He's not good at clearing like vehicles. He's not going to jump in and kill a tank. But what he will do is he gives you another opportunity to basically skirmish with units that your Deathwing Knights don't necessarily want to engage with. We have scouts. We have Starguard veterans. That's a bunker for Azrael because then we get a mass full reroll devastating wounds against the Oath of Bowman target, and then scouts for utility plus. Yep, that's what's up. Pretty classic stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Wrath of the Rock's really good, chat. I don't know much else to say about that. I think the Samael inclusion is really interesting. The other cool thing you can do with him is because he gives you a bonus to advance in charge if he already has advance in charge. If you use Tactical Mastery on him to allow him to advance in charge, he gets +1 to advance into charge. So he moves basically 14 plus 3d6 on the charge. So for 1 CP, you can make him super fast. He's already very fast because he grants advance in charge to his unit, but you can also make him extra fast for a CP, which is nice. Deathwing Knights and Lion dunk on Victrix. Lion sure does, yeah. The Deathwing Knights feels like they're going to be there for a while. Like the minus damage is big, but Victrix have so many fucking attacks. They don't care about the outside of their go turn. They don't get affected by the -1 to wound thing, which means like you can lance them if you don't use the Ancient's ability for +1 strength, and you're just wounding on 3s. With Lance, and you have so many attacks, you'll probably kill most of the Deathwing Knight unit on the crack anyway, because you're still swinging 30 times. Like they just have so many fucking swings. And the death, and then if you have the command points to play around it, right? On the crackback, you can AOC and save on 3s against the Deathwing Knight swings, and it gets really weird. However, Johnson's like a huge problem for sure, because he will just literally pick up the entire unit before he gets to do anything. Lionel Johnson is an absolute chat of a unit. Also, I was talking to a friend about this who is like tangentially related to 40k, but doesn't play. And we were talking about like the Primarch's representation in the game. And I was like, honestly, I think Lionel Johnson's one of the coolest lore to tabletop translations, right? Because like they gave him his like funny superpower where he can like warp jump places, which is sweet, and it's represented in game. But his whole thing is about like fight phase manipulation stuff, right? And that feels, I don't know, for a guy who's like whole character is that he's like basically just autistically hyper fixated on being the best guy with a sword. I feel like that's perfect. Like we've nailed it. And his whole thing is like, I just do rapid ingress, like heroic intervention, plays, or I like deep strike to get rerolls places. And I feel like we just nailed it. We just nailed it. TEO 8-man just rolled it. Infernal will work as intended. So here's the problem with that statement, chat. What the fuck does that mean? Because who knows what the intention is? Here's the other thing that people have like pointed out. The enhancement's 10 points. It may very well be that the intention is that it doesn't shoot. It requires you to have a target already. Because it's only 10 points. And to be fair, until recently, it was 10 points because the Lord of Change datasheet was not very good, and they needed all the help they could get. But it could very well be that the idea was that it did not. It required you to jump through some hoops.
Johnny Matso donated $2 Canadian through Super Chat. Left a chat about Hammer of Averna. Thoughts?
Left a chat about Hammer of Averna.
At Michael Allen 7269 donated $4.99 through Super Chat. Is the Space Marine and Equalivand meta kind of boring, or are we fine with it?
Thank you for the Super Chats, guy. Appreciate that. Thank you. Is the Space Marine and equivalent meta boring? I mean, to be honest, Space Marines are pretty dynamic right now. Like, I think Dark Angels are relatively fringe, but like Dark Angels and Space Wolves are probably on a similar level, like playing field. Maybe Dark Angels is a little bit higher. Like they're a solid like B tier. But then you have like I would say Salamanders, Ultramarines, Blood Angels, and to maybe a lesser extent like Death Watch are all basically like very highly playable. And so like in a universe, would I prefer that more different and unique armies we're seeing play? Yeah, for sure. But in the universe in which we live, where Space Marines are a huge component of the game, I would prefer to see a wider breadth of Space Marines, which is what we're getting right now. It's so much better now than it was previously when it was like literally you can only play Ultramarines or you go home. And I think that's if the question is between those two things, then I prefer what we have currently. Okay. Johnny Marceau asking thoughts on Hammer of Averni running 10-man assault terminators with the chaplain with the Resurrection Enhancement Scout. Yeah, I think that's how you play it, honestly. The problem with Hammer of Averni, in my opinion, is that like I don't it's not that interesting. Like you can have a big tanky unit that's like pretty hard to kill. But you could do basically the same, like, and then you do like the double Oath of Moment thing with Canikvar. And those are good, right? But it feels like, I don't know, it feels like you almost might as well play Imperial Fists. It's just like slightly different Imperial Fists, which I don't know if I necessarily love. I do think too that like the Resurrection Enhancement is solid. Like getting Terminators back is good. And the buff to Terminators recently was sweet because they get +1 to hit and melee. But the and their Battle Shock thing's better. But the downside I see is that like people are going to be ready for 4 wound heavy infantry, like just in general, right? We just talked about Dark Angels with 15 Deathwing Knights. We're talking about Victrix Honor Guard, 18 Victrix Honor Guard lists. If people aren't prepared to kill 10 heavy infantry, I feel like they're not showing up. And running into purely like basically putting your whole game plan on almost purely defensive heavy infantry does feel a little bit awkward to me. I don't know. So, it's fine. I think like I don't think it's bad for sure, but I personally am not very excited about it. I think also there's like a problem with the detachment. The detachment's just not very interesting. They took an attachment that already existed 2 other places in the faction and re-released it, which has biased me against it, even if it's definitely got playable stuff going on. Hammer buffs dreads. It buffs dreads with like 1 stratagem, right? It's like gives them sustained hits. Okay. Like cool. Get that at Ironstorm Spearhead. I don't know. It is what it is. Anyway, chat. Let's see. We got time for 1 or 2 more before we have to hop off, and I have to set up my live stream for the finals game. Anything else you want to take a peek at, chat? Run 6 dreads, but like it doesn't do enough for that many dreadnoughts is the problem, because like half the effects are Terminator focused, right? So we have like 3 Terminator detachments for Space Marines now, and all of them feels like they do an okay job, right? But it's just like I don't know. It's just such a lost. It's a missed opportunity. So like we have AOC. We can do +1 to hit on dreadnoughts, I guess. Obsec. Sustained hits. Oh, and I guess, yeah. So that's what you get. The Obsec on dreadnoughts is cool, I guess. But like it, I don't. None of the enhancements work on them. The detachment ability is mid for them. You're not attacking that many times. Reroll wounds of 1 is like whatever. I don't know. It's a whole thing.
At Peaches Fee Destroyer 483 donated $2 through Super Chat. Are my Grey Hunters finally worth it on the table?
I don't think so. in my opinion. Grey Hunters suffer from, I don't know, they suffer from just having fucking bolters. This is a problem. The Grey Hunters suffer from not having good like a wide variety of character attachments, and for being an undeliverable unit that has a bunch of bolters. I don't think Grey Hunters are worth it still. Like they're a good disruption piece, but the problem is that you need to deliver them with like either with like essentially explicitly a repulsor. Otherwise, you're ground pounding 10 Space Marine bodies, which is like very rarely useful. So I don't know. I'm not that excited about Grey Hunters, to be honest, which makes me sad, but it is what it is. Whoa!
A Chef on Fire 3647 donated $20 through Super Chat. With Carnifex going down, anyone doing well with them?
I think the quick answer to that question is no. The long answer is we can look. I think the best Tyranid that I found was like 3-2. Yeah, a bunch of people went 3-2 with Tyranids. Oh, there's a 4-1. It does not have Carnifexes though. It just has a bunch of Gaunts. Yeah, so we can try to find a Carnifex list, but it doesn't seem like people are interested in. Oh, okay, here's one. So Daniel Hume over here at Black Crow Gaming went 3-2 with Invasion Fleet, Swarmlord, Broodlord, Turbigon with Adapted Biology, Hormagaunts, 20 Hormagaunts plus 20 Termagants, Biovores, Gene Stealers, Elictor, Neurolictor, Pyrovore, Venomthropes, 2x1 Carnifex? 2x1 Carnifex? That's, I don't know, man. Without hit rerolls or just hitting on 4s? Paying 90 points for that? Okay. Plus a Maliceptor, Norn Emissary, double Psychophage. I guess it's alright. So, somebody's doing something with little units. I would be interested to see if anyone's on Subterranean Assault with them. Oh, here we go. So, well, this is the same result, in fairness. So, Isaac Rodriguez from Portal Winter GT ran only Old One Eye as the only... Oh, no, that's... excuse me. As the only epic hero, but he has characters. Old One Eye in Subterranean Assault. So we have deliverability for them. Hyper-adapted Raveners with Tremor Senses. Trigon with Trigon Prime, extra strength and stuff. 6 Hive Guard. That's for enfilading his emergence. So we can give them sustained, ignore cover, and blow vehicles up. A Biovore, Lictor, Pyrovore. 1 Ravener squad to build tunnels. Von Ryan's Leapers, Carnifexes. Holy shit. That's so many. Curious where he put Old One Eye. Probably in the Venom Cannon unit, I assume, but not 100% sure. Just rerolls of the Venom Cannons is good. And if you get sustained hits on them from Emergence, it's great too. We could just like rock out reroll 1s to hit like mass Death Spitter shots as well to clear screening units. That's so many Carnifexes. Is this too many Carnifexes? I don't know, Chance. But the full 6, I guess. Let's go.
At Steel Foil Hat donated $2 through Super
plus
Chat.
double Tyranids.
Anyone doing well with BT on Gladius?
Yeah. Does answer the question. Unfortunately, doesn't Designer No clarify, it doesn't change the unit's eligibility to shoot. So that only is only relevant. I can see how you get confused by that. That's only relevant for abilities that proc while you're eligible to shoot. The problem with Infernal Puppeteer is that it requires you to be selected. So this is the issue with retroactive rules updates, is that they ended up basically adding additional rules in a situation where like the rules worked, but they just like sort of had to add additional addendums to them. So you're eligible to shoot as long as you're not engaged or advanced. However, you can't be selected to shoot if you don't have anything to shoot at the time. And because Infernal Puppeteer only triggers when you are selected to shoot, the implication is if you don't have anything to currently attack before you're selected, you cannot use the enhancement. Very few Black Templar representation over the course of the weekend chat. There's a 2 and 3 running Gladius Task Force is the best I got. So Black Templar seem like they're having a little struggle. We're on the struggle bus today, chats, unfortunately. Which is unfortunate. Yeah, this Carnifex list is wild, by the way. Absolutely insane. Pretty cool. Rules is written in Crusade. You can play with Vanguard Spearhead Detachment and use enhancements from Blood Angels, Black Templars, Space Wolves. Probably. I don't know. Crusade's weird. Ask your Crusade organizer.
Edriong 6931 donated $10 through Super Chat. Sent you a Carnifex list that placed third at an RTT my club hosted. Check out my list if you want as well.
Send me a Carnifex list. Hello. Speaking of Carnifexes, look at this noisy baby. Wah! Wah! What's up? You want to sit on the chair? Yeah? Okay. There you go. You're so good. Let's take a peek at this Carnifex list. And then we will have to hop off in a moment here, chat. Thanks for the super chats, everybody, by the way. I appreciate that. This took third with Assimilation Swarm. Of course, it was Assimilation Swarm. Although healing Carnifex is kind of sweet because you lose wounds and then blood surge them. And then old One Eye, if you ever don't kill him, basically immediately goes back to full because he heals your command phase, regenerates with Assimilation Swarm, heals your opponent's command phase, just goes back up to the top. Kind of neat. Anything else we do with Assimilation Swarm? There's like the +1 to wound strat against things that killed your harvesters, right? It's actually kind of good on like mass gunshot guys. Are we all melee here? Double Scything Talons, yeah, all melee. Yeah, I guess if we get +1 to wound, that's kind of spooky. And then you can give them lethal hits and rerolls. Yeah, okay. I'll buy that. Bio 4, Neurogons, Pyro 4, Rippers, Carnifexes, 1 Exocrine, Maleceptor, Norn Assimilator, Norn Emissary, triple Psychophage, Tyrannifex. With Acid Spray. Everyone's on this Acid Spray guy. What am I missing with the Acid Spray? Is it to like shoot Victrix Honor Guard? Is that the deal? Because we have a 2 damage flamer. The problem is it's like AP1 does not ignore cover, right? Unless it's AP2, in which case, whatever, I guess. Oh, it is AP2. All right. But still, AP2 does not ignore cover. It means basically AP1. AOC to AP0. And they're saving on 2s. I don't know. The Acid Spray has always whelmed me, chat. I feel incredibly whelmed. It is not anti-infantry. It's just strength 6. Oh, Assimilation Swarm. What a time. Anyway, chat, I think we are probably running a little late. So I will have to hop off in a moment here. Apologies for cutting the stream short. But if you want to come hang out with me, don't forget, everybody, you can come hang out with me over on Twitch. I'll drop a link in the video description or in the chat here. We're going to go live stream a Deathwatch game for a T5S2 event finals. It's going to be Deathwatch versus Chaos Daemons, which is actually kind of a very spicy matchup, which I'm excited to play through. I'm excited to watch. I believe it's pre-buff Demons as well, so it's not going to be quite the same level as of dick-kicking Demons as we're seeing right now. So I don't know. Should be fun. Go hang out with me over there. Thanks, everyone, for watching. And I will see you tomorrow. We'll be live with another, I think, a bit of a fun stream. I think we've talked a little bit this week about prognostication for 11th edition. And I want to kind of continue that discussion on Tactical Tuesday tomorrow. So that's what we're going to be doing tomorrow. We won't have a Warhamster Wednesday this week because it'll be Christmas Eve. So I figure y'all are going to be doing holiday stuff. But I will then be back with coverage next week as normal. Don't forget as well, we have the Tennessee Elite Open in 2 weeks. So that's going to be the first week of January 9th, 10th, 11th, I believe is the dates. So I'll see you then. Thanks everyone for hanging with me. Keep it classy, folks, and I'll see you in a bit.